What's going on, everybody? Welcome to After Prison Show, and today is day number 18 of our 20-day prison story marathon. And in this prison story video, I'm gonna tell you about a time that old Joe went crazy inside of the courtroom. Give me that judge! Give me the judge! Dude, did you just see the way that guy came out of the courtroom right there? I'm sitting back here for a drunken public. They're probably gonna give me a life sentence now. Now, the first thing that I want to say before I even tell this story is this is not something that I am proud of doing. I don't think that I'm some big, bad, tough guy for doing what I did. But damn it, I hope you understand that during this time, I felt like my damn life was over. Now, this story takes place shortly after I was arrested back on December 20th or 21st of 2008, where I would end up serving the 7 years in prison that I did for a long list of charges stemming from nonviolent drug offenses. And when I say a long list of charges, I mean a long list of charges. Possession with intent to distribute cocaine, possession of a firearm by a nonviolent offender, resisting arrest, possession of a concealed weapon, conspiracy to sell that cocaine, reckless driving, driving without a license, fourth offense, and I'm pretty sure there was another charge. I'm quite sure that I had 8 charges going into this, or maybe it was I had 8 charges after this little hiccup I had inside of the courtroom. But just try to imagine being in my shoes, facing all of those damn charges that I just told you about right there. It's probably a safe bet to assume that you're gonna be feeling like your life could quite possibly be over. With all of those charges, there's a good possibility you could end up with so much time that by the time you ever do see the free world again, you're gonna be an old head, just like those old heads that I was talking about in yesterday's video. Hey, CB! CB, what you doing over there in that microwave trying to heat up that hair grease, CB? That was from yesterday's video, and if you didn't get a chance to see that, you really should. But shortly after I was arrested, this is when my journey through the courts would begin. Starting with my arraignment, where I would go in front of a judge via a video screen from the jail, where the judge would then tell me all of the charges that I had been charged with, and they would ask me if I was going to hire my own lawyer or get a court-appointed lawyer. And because I had no money at all or outside support at that time, I would end up having to have a court-appointed lawyer to represent me throughout these monstrosity of charges that I was facing. And from that arraignment court hearing, where I was then assigned a public defender, my next court appearance would be at my preliminary hearing, where they would see if they had enough evidence to then send my case up to what's considered high court, circuit court, the big boy court, where you are definitely, if found guilty, looking at a whole lot of time. And it was during that preliminary hearing where I went crazy inside of the courtroom. I just could not take it anymore. And it was because of something the judge said to me that absolutely made me lose my mind and flip out inside of this courtroom, causing me to get an additional charge and also coming very, very close to having these guards inside of that courtroom beat my ass. And I will never forget how all of this transpired. When at a preliminary hearing, you're in what's called General District Court, or oftentimes referred to as low court. General District Court is low court, circuit court, the big boy court, that's oftentimes referred to as high court. But while in these preliminary hearings, you, your lawyer, the prosecutor, all of you are up at the judge's bench. You're all just standing right there in front of the judge's bench. It's you, your lawyer, and then opposite you, again, that prosecutor right there, ready to bury you for whatever you're sitting in there for. And during this, the prosecutor tells the judge what evidence they have against you, and the judge then makes the determination if it's enough evidence to send it upstairs. But also during these preliminary hearings, they may also go ahead and hear certain charges that you may be facing if, like in my case, you're sitting in there for a whole bunch of charges. And the charges that they could go ahead and proceed with right there will be like misdemeanors that you may have. And that is exactly what they did in my case, going ahead and proceeding with one of the 3 misdemeanors that I had. And if I can remember correctly, I think the misdemeanors that I had during this time were reckless driving, driving without a license, and I do believe it was resisting arrest. I'm pretty sure resisting arrest is a misdemeanor. At least I think it is. And I want to say that the charge they went ahead and proceeded with was my driving without a license charge. The judge went ahead and gave me something like 60 days for that charge. Really nothing at all in comparison to all of the damn time that I knew I was facing once my case got sent upstairs. And I can assure you it definitely got sent upstairs. I mean, they certainly had enough evidence to do so, considering the majority of the evidence that they had against me was my own statement saying, I did these things, don't charge the other two people who were in the car with me. Old Joe just trying to keep it 100. But when the judge sentenced me to these 60 days for this driving without a license charge, it was shortly after that I went absolutely batshit crazy inside of this courtroom. And I know you may be wondering, like, why, Joe, would you ever go crazy over 60 days in jail when you were facing all of this time for these other charges? Like, how exactly would that make you go crazy? Well, I'm about to tell you. You see, it had absolutely nothing to do with those 60 days that the judge sentenced me to. However, when the judge did sentence me to those 60 days, my lawyer then leaned over to me and whispered, hey, just to let you know, we can go ahead and appeal this and go ahead and take this charge upstairs too. That good old public defender giving me some good old public defender information. But as my so-called lawyer was telling me this, the judge heard everything that my lawyer had just said to me. And before I even had a chance to say one word, and mind you, I was not about to appeal this at all. I knew I was facing a lot of time, so these 60 days meant nothing to me in comparison to the grand scheme of things. But before I could utter one single syllable word, anything, before I could even take a breath like, the judge looked square at me and said this, and I dare you to appeal this, because with as much time as you're facing upstairs, they are going to absolutely light you up when you get up there. You know, I like to say that I took some time to analyze exactly what this judge just said to me, but I didn't. In fact, I just reacted immediately without even thinking at all. The judge had just said to me, I dare you to appeal this, because what you're facing upstairs, they're gonna smoke your boots, basically. They're gonna bury you underneath the jail and the prison. You're looking at a hell of a lot of time, and you're definitely about to get that, so go ahead and appeal it. I mean, that's basically what the judge had just said to me. And again, I just reacted without thinking. I snatched the mic off the podium, threw that shit on the ground. I'm not in handcuffs, by the way. And there also was this little mic that was sitting right there in front of me, but I snatched that mic up, threw that shit on the ground, and literally began to escort myself out of the courtroom, saying all the while, this shit. And as I'm walking myself back to jail by myself, unescorted, the judge says to me, what did you say? So I repeated myself. This shit. The judge then says, that's a contempt of court. That's 10 days right there. 10 days? Hey, don't threaten me with a good time. I mean, I'm already facing damn near life right here. So with that, I turn around and I look dead at the judge and I say to him, and f you too. And the judge follows up with saying, that's another 10 days right there. By this point, the deputies from the courtroom have damn near football tackled me through the door that leads into the little holding cell hallway, right there where guys are held in those cells waiting to go into the courtroom from the jail. And by the way, there were other prisoners sitting in those cells waiting to go into that same courtroom I was being football tackled out of. And you know, just to throw this out there, when you're sitting in those holding cells with those other prisoners, everybody's waiting to go into the courtroom. One thing that's always on the minds of those prisoners in those holding cells is what type of mood is the judge in? Man, when I go in that courtroom, I really hope that judge is in a good mood. I hope nobody's pissed that judge off today. So knowing that that's a major thought in the minds of those prisoners sitting in those holding cells, just imagine what they were thinking as they were seeing me being football tackled out of the courtroom back into the hallway where those holding cells were at. Give me that judge! Give me the judge! Dude, did you just see the way that guy came out of the courtroom right there? I'm sitting back here for a drunken public. They're probably gonna give me a life sentence now. And as comical as I try to make this whole thing out to be, really this was not funny at all. Yes, I was football tackled out of the courtroom. They put me back in a cell by myself, and two deputies then came into the cell and threatened to beat the hell out of me. And the only reason they didn't, and I'm not even gonna lie, is because I completely copped a plea at that point. Meaning that I just tapped out. I said, hey, look, I don't want any problems. I'm facing a lot of time. The judge said something that I reacted wrong to. I reacted without thinking. I'm very sorry for the way that I just did that inside the courtroom. Please don't beat me up. The judicial system is already gonna do enough of that throughout my case. And just to go even further, and this is actually kind of embarrassing to admit, but as I'm copping this plea, completely tapping out to the these two guards, I'm quite sure that while doing so, I had tears in my eyes. Because again, just imagine what it would be like to be in a situation where you already know you're facing so much damn time, having no idea how much time you're gonna get, and having this weigh like 1,000,000 pounds on your mind every single day as you're waking up inside of that jail, just waiting, anticipating, being anxious, having no one that you can talk to out there in the free world because you are completely alone. The entire free world has basically Tom Hanks and cast you away because of what you've done to yourself. So again, yeah, I'm pretty sure that I had tears running down my face as I'm telling these guards, please don't beat me up. And you know, for good reason too. But just imagine what it would be like to have a judge tell you that he dares you to appeal whatever little amount of time he had just given you. Because where you're ultimately going upstairs to that higher court, they're gonna light you up there. Add that to everything that you're already dealing with. And with this story that I've just told you, I am fortunate in a lot of ways. I'm fortunate that the judge only sentenced me to 20 days for having that outburst inside of his courtroom that started off with me snatching that microphone off of that podium and then slamming it on the ground. And then from there cussing him out as well. I'm also fortunate that when I did get up to that high court and I did go through with my court proceeding, that miraculously I only ended up with the mandatory minimum time, which by the way was higher than the high end of my sentencing guidelines. The high end of my sentencing guidelines being 5 years, 8 months. But because of this mandatory minimum time that I was facing, I ended up getting sentenced to 7.5 years, which I ended up serving 6 years and 10 months of. And I'm also fortunate that those guards inside of that courtroom who football tackled me out of there didn't beat me up for acting the stupid fool that I was inside of that courtroom. But even with all of that, it was still a pretty damn crazy experience to go through. Hey, look! That's it. I hope you enjoyed this story, and if you did so, please leave a like and a comment letting me know exactly what you thought about this. As always, until next time, please enjoy life, the free world. Never take a moment for granted, and make the most of every day. Peace! Give me that judge! Give me the judge! Dude, did you just see the way that guy came out of the courtroom right there? I'm sitting back here for a drunken public. They're probably gonna give me a life sentence now.